Are you waking up 2, 3, or more times a night to urinate, feeling that uncomfortable heaviness in your pelvis when you lie down, tossing and turning because sleep won't come? Or noticing mornings feel irritated and slow instead of steady and confident? If you're over 60 and these patterns sound familiar, they're not just age, they're fixable signals that your prostate and lower urinary tract are responding to choices you're making before bed. Right now, you're about to discover 3 common night habits that aggravate the prostate, fragment your sleep, and wreck the next morning. And the simple swaps that help men wake up calmer, stronger, and with far fewer bathroom trips. These aren't complicated medical interventions. They're straightforward changes to what you do in the 2 to 3 hours before lights out that can shift everything about how you sleep and how you feel when you wake. If this sounds like something you need, like this video, comment with your age and country, and subscribe for senior health guidance that protects your sleep and supports your prostate comfort. Here's why the prostate and lower urinary tract respond so sensitively to evening choices, and why understanding this changes everything. The prostate sits just below the bladder, wrapped around the urethra like a ring, which means any swelling or irritation puts direct pressure on the urinary pathway and makes you feel like you need to go even when your bladder isn't full. By age 60, about half of all men have some degree of prostate enlargement known as benign prostatic hyperplasia, and by 85, that number reaches 90%, which means most men in this age group are dealing with a gland that's already a bit more reactive and sensitive than it used to be when you add late-night stimulants, irritants, excessive fluids, or high-stress nervous system activation on top of that natural enlargement. You're essentially turning up the volume on every signal the prostate sends to the bladder, making urgency worse, sleep more fragmented, and mornings more exhausting. The good news is that calmer evenings usually translate directly into calmer nights, because the prostate and bladder respond to what you put in your body, how hydrated or overloaded your tissues are, and whether your nervous system is in fight or flight mode or rest and repair mode when you lie down. Small, intentional changes in those final hours before bed can dramatically reduce nighttime awakenings, ease that sense of pressure or irritation, deepen your sleep, and help you wake with steadier energy and confidence instead of grogginess and frustration. So, let's talk about the 3 night habits most commonly linked to prostate irritation and sleep disruption in men over 60. And why each one creates the problems you're experiencing. The first habit is drinking alcohol or caffeinated beverages like coffee, black tea, or energy drinks in the evening as a way to unwind, socialize, or stay alert for late activities. Alcohol is a known bladder and prostate irritant that increases urine production by suppressing vasopressin, the hormone that tells your kidneys to hold on to water, which means you produce more urine at exactly the wrong time, when you're trying to sleep. It also relaxes the muscles around the bladder neck and prostate in ways that can worsen urgency and incomplete emptying, making you feel like you need to go again shortly after you just went. Caffeine, even in small amounts, is a diuretic and a direct bladder stimulant that increases urgency, frequency, and that jittery feeling that makes it harder to fall asleep and stay asleep. For men over 60, whose prostates are already enlarged and reactive, a single evening beer, glass of wine, or cup of caffeinated tea can be enough to trigger 2 or 3 extra bathroom trips during the night, fragmenting sleep cycles and leaving you exhausted the next morning. The safer swap is to finish any alcohol or caffeinated drinks by mid-afternoon at the latest if you're going to have them at all, and switch to warm, non-irritating beverages in the evening like herbal teas such as chamomile, which contains apigenin that supports relaxation, rooibos, which is naturally caffeine-free and anti-inflammatory, or ginger tea, which supports digestion without bladder stimulation, or simply warm water with a small squeeze of lemon if that feels soothing to you. These options hydrate without stimulating the bladder, Support relaxation rather than agitation, and give your body the gentle signal that it's time to wind down instead of rev up. The second habit is drinking large amounts of fluid in the 2 to 3 hours before bed. Often because you're thirsty from salty dinners, you're trying to catch up on hydration you missed during the day, or you're simply in the habit of sipping water while watching television or reading late into the evening. While staying hydrated throughout the day is essential for overall health and proper kidney function, loading your bladder with fluid right before sleep means your kidneys are processing that water overnight, filling your bladder repeatedly and waking you up to urinate just when you need deep, uninterrupted rest for tissue repair and hormone regulation. For men with enlarged prostates, a full bladder puts extra pressure on the gland and the urethra, which amplifies urgency signals and makes it harder to fully empty because the swollen prostate tissue partially obstructs the flow, creating a frustrating cycle where you wake up, urinate a small amount, go back to bed, and then wake again 30 or 60 minutes later because your bladder is filling faster than your prostate is allowing you to empty it completely. The safer swap is to pull most of your daily fluid intake into the morning and early afternoon hours, aiming for 6 to 8 glasses spread across the waking hours, drinking steadily throughout the day so you're genuinely hydrated by evening, and then tapering off fluids starting 2 to 3 hours before bed. In that final window before sleep, limit yourself to small sips if you're truly thirsty, just enough to wet your mouth and throat, perhaps 2 or 3 small swallows, rather than drinking full glasses of water out of habit or reflex. This approach keeps you well hydrated overall while giving your kidneys sufficient time to process fluids before you lie down, which significantly reduces the number of times you wake up at night and helps you wake in the morning feeling more rested, clear-headed, and steady on your feet. The third habit is eating heavy, spicy, acidic, or ultra-processed salty foods late in the evening, often because dinner is your main meal, you're eating socially or emotionally, or you simply don't realize how much these foods irritate the bladder and prostate and disrupt the quality of your sleep. Spicy foods containing hot peppers or strong spices like cayenne, jalapenos, or curry powder can directly irritate the bladder lining and prostate tissue, increasing urgency and discomfort that persists throughout the night. Acidic foods like tomato-based sauces, citrus fruits, vinegar-heavy dressings, or marinades can have a similar irritating effect, making the bladder more reactive and the prostate more inflamed at exactly the time when you need those tissues to be calm and relaxed. Ultra-processed foods high in sodium like frozen meals, canned soups, deli meats, salty snacks, or fast food cause your body to retain water in the short term as it tries to dilute the excess salt and then flush that water later in the night once your kidneys process it, which means you wake up needing to urinate urgently even if you didn't drink much before bed. These foods also tend to cause reflux, bloating, and digestive discomfort that makes it harder to fall asleep and stay in the deep sleep phases where your body does its most important repair work, which compounds the problem because poor sleep worsens inflammation throughout your body and makes the prostate even more reactive the next night, creating a negative cycle. The safer swap is to make dinner your lighter, earlier meal of the day whenever possible, aiming to finish eating at least 2 to 3 hours before bed so digestion is largely complete, and choosing foods that are gentle on both the digestive and urinary systems like lean proteins such as grilled chicken, fish, or turkey, cooked vegetables like steamed broccoli, carrots, or green beans, whole grains like brown rice or quinoa, and healthy fats from sources like olive oil, avocado, or unsalted nuts. If you do eat later due to schedule or social commitments, keep portions smaller and avoid the specific irritants that trigger your individual symptoms. For many men, that means skipping the hot sauce entirely, avoiding acidic tomato dishes and citrus desserts, and steering clear of salty processed snacks in the evening hours. Now, let me walk you through a simple nightly routine that puts all of these swaps into practice so you know exactly what to do starting tonight and can build this into a sustainable pattern. About 3 hours before you plan to be in bed with lights out, finish your last regular-sized drink of water or other fluids. This gives your kidneys adequate time to process and filter that fluid and your bladder time to empty at least once before you lie down for the night. About 2 to 3 hours before bed, finish your evening meal, keeping it lighter in portion size and composition, and avoiding spicy, acidic, or heavily salted foods that might irritate your bladder or cause reflux that interferes with comfortable rest. In that final hour before bed, limit yourself to small sips of water if your mouth feels genuinely dry. Just a few small swallows, not a full glass, so you're comfortable without overloading your bladder tissues right before sleep. About 30 to 60 minutes before lights out, consider taking a warm shower or placing a warm, damp towel over your lower abdomen for 5 to 10 minutes if your doctor has approved heat therapy for you. This gentle warmth can help relax pelvic floor muscles that may have tightened during the day, ease any residual tension in the lower abdomen, and support local blood flow in a way that many men find deeply soothing and calming as part of their wind-down ritual. After the warmth, take 1 full minute to practice easy, slow breathing where you breathe in slowly through your nose for a count of 4. Hold gently and comfortably for a count of 2, and then breathe out through your mouth for a count of 6, letting your belly rise naturally as you inhale and fall as you exhale, and consciously releasing any tension you're holding in your pelvic floor, hips, lower back, shoulders, or jaw with each exhale. This deliberate breathing signals to your autonomic nervous system that it's time to shift from sympathetic fight or flight mode into parasympathetic rest and repair mode, which helps the smooth muscles around your bladder, neck, and prostate relax and reduces those urgent signals that would otherwise wake you repeatedly. Dim your lights progressively in the final 30 minutes before bed. Put away all electronic screens, including phones, tablets, and televisions, because the blue light they emit suppresses melatonin production, and choose a quiet, calming activity like light reading from a physical book, listening to gentle instrumental music, or simply sitting in a comfortable chair reflecting peacefully on the day. When you're ready to lie down and settle in for sleep, visit the bathroom one final time to empty your bladder as completely and thoroughly as possible, even if you don't feel a particularly strong urge in that moment. This reduces the likelihood of waking in the first critical 2 to 3 hours of sleep, when your deepest, most restorative rest occurs. Then get into bed. Settle into a comfortable position that doesn't put pressure on your lower abdomen, and allow your entire body to relax fully, knowing that you've done everything within your control to support a calm, uninterrupted night of healing rest. Here's what's happening physiologically when you make these changes and why they translate into fewer bathroom trips, less pelvic pressure, deeper sleep cycles, and steadier mornings. When you eliminate late alcohol and caffeine from your evening hours, you remove 2 of the most direct bladder irritants and powerful diuretics from your system, which means your bladder produces significantly less urine overnight, and the delicate tissues lining the bladder wall and surrounding the prostate are measurably less inflamed and reactive to normal filling. When you taper fluids intentionally in the evening and instead drink steadily throughout the earlier daylight hours, you keep your overall hydration perfectly balanced for health, while giving your kidneys sufficient processing time before sleep, which dramatically reduces the number of times your bladder fills to the threshold that triggers waking. When you eat lighter, earlier dinners that carefully avoid irritating foods, you actively reduce inflammation throughout both the digestive and urinary systems, minimize reflux and bloating that interfere with comfortable breathing and position during sleep, and prevent the sodium-driven fluid shifts that cause those frustrating, middle-of-the-night urgency episodes. When you incorporate gentle warmth and slow, deliberate breathing to relax your pelvic floor and calm your nervous system before sleep, you're intentionally and measurably shifting from sympathetic stress mode into parasympathetic healing mode, which relaxes the smooth muscles around the bladder, neck, and prostate, reduces the intensity and frequency of urgency signals, and allows your body to enter and maintain the deep sleep phases where critical hormone balance, cellular tissue repair, and immune function all improve naturally and powerfully. Let me offer a realistic, progressive way to build these changes so you're not overwhelmed and can clearly track what's actually working for your individual body. Start tonight by choosing just one of the 3 habits to change. Perhaps you decide to stop drinking alcohol or caffeinated beverages after 3 in the afternoon. Or perhaps you pull your last substantial glass of water back to 2 full hours before bed instead of drinking freely right up until you lie down. Or perhaps you make your evening meal noticeably lighter and finish it a full hour earlier than usual. Focus exclusively on that single change for 3 to 4 consecutive nights and pay close attention to what shifts in your experience. Are you waking up 1 fewer time during the night? Is the urgency you feel when you do wake noticeably less intense or easier to manage? Is your sleep feeling even slightly deeper or more continuous? Once that first change feels natural and integrated into your routine, and you're observing some measurable benefit, layer in the second swap. Maybe now you're adjusting your food choices to carefully avoid the spicy curries or acidic tomato dishes that you've noticed trigger irritation. Or you're adding that warm shower and breathing routine in the 30 minutes before bed to support nervous system calming. Give that 2-habit combination another 3 to 4 nights to settle fully into your body's rhythms, continuing to observe honestly how your sleep quality and bathroom frequency respond. Then add the 3rd change so all 3 protective swaps are working together synergistically. Your fluid intake is appropriately tapered in the evening hours. Your diet is noticeably gentler on your urinary tract. Your stimulants are finished well before evening. And your deliberate wind-down routine actively supports parasympathetic calm instead of perpetuating stress. Keep this complete routine consistent and unwavering for a full 2 weeks, because that's the realistic window where your bladder capacity and sensitivity begin to adapt to the new patterns. Your prostate inflammation starts to settle measurably, and your nervous system begins reliably recognizing these evening cues as clear signals for deep restorative rest rather than fragmented alertness. Now let me offer some important cautions and clear guidance so you approach these changes safely and know precisely when to seek appropriate medical care. If you're experiencing severe or sudden urinary symptoms like complete inability to urinate despite strong urge, fever above 100.4 degrees, sharp burning pain during urination, visible blood in your urine, or intense sharp pelvic pain, these are potential signs of serious conditions like acute urinary retention, bladder or prostate infection, kidney stones, or prostatitis. And you need to contact a doctor or visit an emergency department promptly rather than trying to manage these alarming symptoms with lifestyle changes alone. If you're taking medications such as diuretics for blood pressure or heart failure management, decongestants for sinus congestion or allergy relief, antihistamines for allergies or sleep aid, or medications for depression or anxiety, these can all significantly affect urinary function and may interact with the timing and effectiveness of these evening swaps. So discuss any substantial changes with your prescribing doctor or consulting pharmacist to make certain your approach is safe and appropriate for your specific medication regimen and health situation. If you have diagnosed benign prostatic hyperplasia, chronic prostatitis, diabetes requiring medication or insulin, obstructive sleep apnea requiring CPAP therapy, or congestive heart failure requiring careful fluid management, Your evening fluid timing, specific dietary needs, and medication schedule may need to be thoughtfully personalized with direct input from your healthcare team to avoid unintended consequences like dangerous dehydration, problematic blood sugar swings, worsening breathing problems during sleep, or destabilization of your underlying chronic condition. Let me answer some practical questions that naturally come up when men start seriously thinking about changing their established evening habits and routines. Is decaf coffee or tea truly okay in the evening hours? Decaf beverages still contain small residual amounts of caffeine, typically 5 to 15 milligrams per cup compared to 95 milligrams in regular coffee, and can be mildly irritating to some particularly sensitive bladders. So, if you notice that even decaf seems to trigger symptoms for you personally, it's genuinely better to switch completely to fully caffeine-free herbal teas like chamomile, rooibos, or peppermint. But if decaf doesn't appear to trigger noticeable symptoms in your individual case, it's generally acceptable in reasonable moderation. What exactly should you drink if you're genuinely thirsty very close to bedtime and your mouth feels uncomfortably dry? Small, deliberate sips of room temperature water or a few gentle swallows of warm herbal tea are perfectly fine and appropriate. The critical key is sipping just enough to relieve the immediate sensation of thirst and moisten your mouth and throat, rather than drinking a full 8-ounce glass simply out of ingrained habit or routine. Does taking a short, gentle evening walk after dinner genuinely help or potentially hurt prostate and sleep quality? A relaxed 10 to 15-minute walk at a comfortable, unhurried pace after your evening meal can definitely aid healthy digestion, support beneficial blood circulation, and provide light stress relief, but you should consciously avoid vigorous, intense exercise close to bedtime because that level of exertion stimulates your sympathetic nervous system significantly and makes it measurably harder to fall asleep when you want to. Can gentle pelvic floor exercises or stretches help or potentially harm symptoms at night? Gentle, intentional pelvic floor relaxation exercises paired with slow breathing before bed can be extremely helpful for reducing accumulated tension and improving local blood flow. But you should definitely avoid aggressive, forceful Kegel clenching exercises or intense pelvic contractions close to bedtime, because that level of muscular tension can paradoxically increase tightness and discomfort rather than releasing it. Now let me walk you carefully through what specific changes to observe and mentally track over your first 7 nights, and then what reasonable improvements to expect by 14 consistent days of practice. For your first 7 nights of committed effort, pay honest attention to how many distinct times you're waking up each night to urinate, and whether that raw number is measurably decreasing compared to your previous typical pattern. Notice whether the intensity and urgency of the sensation when you do wake up feels noticeably less intense, less panicky, or whether you're able to return to sleep more quickly and easily after urinating compared to before. Observe whether your urinary stream feels subjectively stronger, more forceful, or whether you're able to empty your bladder more completely with less straining or hesitation, which naturally reduces the physiological need to wake again soon after. Track whether you're falling asleep more easily in the first place at the beginning of the night and whether your overall subjective sleep quality feels deeper, more continuous, and less fragmented by restless tossing. Pay close attention to how you honestly feel in the morning when you first wake. Are you experiencing noticeably more physical energy, less mental grogginess or fog, better stable mood, and a steadier sense of confidence and physical capability as you begin your day? By night 7, most men report experiencing at least 1 or 2 of these beneficial shifts happening more consistently and reliably. Maybe you're waking 1 full time less per night on average. Maybe urgency is noticeably and measurably less intense when it does occur. Maybe sleep subjectively feels deeper and more restorative. or maybe mornings simply feel meaningfully better overall, in ways that are hard to precisely quantify, but definitely real. By 14 consecutive nights of consistent, diligent practice, these positive changes should feel substantially more reliable, integrated, and established as your new normal pattern. Nighttime bathroom trips should be demonstrably and consistently fewer, perhaps decreasing from an average of 3 or 4 times nightly down to 1 or 2 manageable trips, or from 5 or 6 exhausting interruptions down to a more tolerable 3. So here's precisely what happens next, and what specific action you need to take starting this very evening. In the comments section below, please share your current age, your country of residence, and specifically which of the 3 harmful night habits you're personally committing to stop or meaningfully change tonight. Whether that's cutting out evening alcohol or caffeine consumption entirely, deliberately tapering your fluid intake in the final hours before bed, or making your evening meal substantially lighter and finishing it noticeably earlier. Making this a visible public commitment genuinely keeps you more accountable to yourself and powerfully signals to your own mind that you're absolutely serious about protecting your sleep quality and actively supporting your prostate comfort and long-term health. Subscribe to this channel right now for continuing practical, evidence-based senior health guidance that consistently respects your dignity and actively helps you age with genuine strength, capability, and confidence. Tonight can absolutely be quieter and more restful. Your sleep can definitely be deeper and more restorative, and tomorrow morning can genuinely be steadier and more capable. And it all starts with the conscious, intentional choices you make in the next few hours.